Thank you everybody for being here. Welcome to Photokina, welcome to the Fujifilm stage. It's my honor to be here to be able to talk to you guys today. I don't know about you, but I'm having problems not buying everything I see here at the conference. So many amazing things this year. I want you guys to think about it too. It might be 10 years from now when we look back and we see Wikipedia, and we Wikipedia the term photography. What we're seeing this year and next year is part of history. So I want you guys to know that you're not just making history by being here, you're going to be part of it forever, and it's very inspiring. So I really appreciate you guys coming to see me. Now, again, I'll repeat my name. It's Eli Locardi, and the only reason is because when I first meet people, that's the first thing they ask me. Like, how the heck do you pronounce your name? And as long as you get it mostly right, you know, I like Elia, I'm from the United States, but Elia in Italian, my South American friends call me Elia. For some reason the I is an accent. So however you get it close. I am a full-time travel photographer. I've flown over 1 million miles since 2009, and I've visited more than 55 countries. Now, map's getting pretty good. It's not bad, but missing some places. I've actually never been to Africa. I haven't been to the Arctic. There's some other places. You see India there. I actually drove through part of India, but that's as close as I've gotten to it. So we're still working on it. It's a work in progress. And world travel is really fun. You get to see great things, but when you fly a lot, what happens? A little bit of jet lag and fatigue. Perpetually jet lag, but that's okay. In 2012, traveling so much and wanting to use every bit of income that we had to continue traveling and taking photos, we decided to do something that was a little interesting at the time, and that was become 100% location independent. Now, 4.5 years ago, this term didn't exist. We had to kind of Google it and make sure that it worked, because when we went to talk to our parents, last thing you want to say to your mom is, hey, we're going homeless. It's not a good idea. If you pick a term like location independence, you can say, hey mom, we've given a lot of thought, we're going to become location independent, we're going to travel full time. And when I told my mom, she's like, that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds really good. Little did she know we had no idea what we were doing. But since March of 2012, we actually left. You saw was our apartment before we left to Sydney, Australia. We've been on the road ever since. Those are the boxes that you saw, those 2 bags. You guys might see rollerboards, shoulder bags, and things like that. What I actually see is my office, my studio, my kitchen, or even a junk drawer in a Ziploc bag, and things like that, scissors and whatnot. And also, there's a whole bag just for hair care products. That's important to point out as well. We can't collect things because we don't have a home. In fact, our home is really that 5 foot by 5 foot. I have to say feet because I'm in Europe where you guys use the metric system. 5 feet by 5 feet. We started collecting our boarding passes, bag tags, train tickets, things like that. All the stuff that would commemorate the travel. And a few years ago, we decided to sort of lay down our collection, see what we had. And next to our storage unit, we dumped it out, laid down, and you can see it was getting pretty intense. The most important thing that I travel with is in that upper right corner of the screen. That is a 2-cup mocha. Makes 2 shots of espresso that usually my wife Naomi steals both. So the second batch is usually for me. And when everybody tells you no matter what you do, how much hiking you go all over the world, you're here at Photokina, stay hydrated. No. It's a complete lie. Don't listen to them. Stay caffeinated. That's the right choice. Gear load changes now for me. I've been getting back into video. I've been doing a lot of stuff, a lot of photos, a lot of aerial stuff, so it changes all the time. I'm going back and forth to the storage unit to swap things out. Sometimes I get really lucky, because this stuff's heavy. Sometimes I find friends to help me along the way. So in Bhutan, we actually had I made friends with the locals there, and they had a mule transport system. Now, I did call Delta Airlines to ask them if I could bring on a seeing eye mule. Everybody has the seeing eye dogs. They said no, that's not possible. I was very disappointed because they are really, really helpful. We made friends. But for the past series of years, I've been able to have great experiences, share them on social media, and just have a wonderful time. This was last year's photo walk. So you guys were sitting on the brochures for the photo walks tonight. I hope you guys can make it. And it's been really fun. Now, before I get started, the last thing I'm going to show you, that boarding pass collection, that was a few years ago. And this is what it's like today. Now, while we could talk about random pieces of paper all day long, trust me, try, or my carbon imprint by printing them, I'm going to talk to you guys today about landscape photography, post-processing, and pushing the boundaries. But before we do that, I want to start at the beginning. Everything that I've developed started with the idea of capturing the most beautiful destinations in the world. And I started by going to the places that I really wanted to visit. So for travel photography, I thought of a place like Rome. And I wanted to capture Rome, and I thought, does Rome have any structures that are famous? Could they possibly have anything, you know, some sort of Colosseum type thing or something like that I could go take a photo of? So for Rome, it was pretty easy, something iconic, the Colosseum, or the Vatican, the beautiful bridges, Ponte St. Angelo, which is beautiful, and things like that. So I started visiting other cities. Can you guys think of some iconic structure that they have in Paris that's very famous? It's kind of hard. This was really tough, but apparently they have this Eiffel Tower. So I went to the top of the tower, Montparnasse, which I believe I'm pronouncing correctly, or else all my French friends are going to yell at me later. And I waited for the right moment in time, which is going to be what we talk about next. And throughout there, I just wanted to capture different things. So in Paris, I thought, you know, I like the Eiffel Tower, it's pretty cool, but I like old Paris, like the gargoyles of Notre Dame. I actually stuck a little tripod up there. Don't tell me. Now, European cities, lots of icons, right? But we started moving out to more areas that were landscape only, like Iceland. When I think of Iceland, what comes to mind first were waterfalls. Beautiful waterfalls in Iceland. And then with Iceland, of course, ice. There's got to be some ice in Iceland. So if you go to Iceland and you go to Jökulsárlón, this is across the street from the black sand beach. You guys have seen the icebergs on the beach. And I was very lucky with a beautiful sunset to be able to capture all that reflected light. Now for this too, I spent a lot of time in Japan. I've spent 5 years photographing the sakura, the cherry blossoms, and I wanted to find places in Japan that really have an emotional connection. So anybody who's gone to Kyoto and Arashiyama has visited the bamboo forest. And you can see that I've also captured it without any people, because their first thing in the morning is very important. And of course, Japan, you can't visit without seeing one of the castles, and if you go during the spring, you get a chance to see it surrounded with cherry blossoms. So this is about choosing strong subjects. I'm always trying to pick the strongest subjects. Once I figure out what the strongest subjects are, the next step is to choose the right moments in time. This is where it gets really fun. This is where I have a lot of fun. So let's pick a beautiful location in the world like, I don't know, Santorini. Now, I set up early, and what I'm going to show you guys is the progression of my shooting time, about 2 hours span of time. And watch this time lapse. So this is the middle of the afternoon, late afternoon, and then late afternoon will start turning into a sunset. And when you guys get the sunset, the color will happen in the sky. A little bit after that, once the light starts to fade, the artificial light from the city starts to come on. And there's a bunch of little ants crawling around obviously too. Lots of people, you guys have been. And then that transforms into a blue hour. So we're looking at 2 hours. 2 hours I was setting up shooting, and I set up a time lapse for an example to show you that all of that time, 2 hours, turned into one shot. 2 hours of waiting for that one moment in time. One singular raw file that I captured out of all that time to choose from. Now it's not always that case. That was a sunset. This is a sunrise. Another time lapse from Victoria Peak, Lugard Road in Hong Kong. Now watch this time, as I play through this, that artificial light from the city is going to fade as the sun starts to come up. So there's going to be different times where you can make a beautiful photo at night, during the blue hour, or when the sun starts to come up. As we start getting further down the road with post-processing, I'm going to be explaining this process for you guys, how all of these moments in time can be combined together to create something truly unique. So that's choosing the right moments in time. Now, in order to choose the right moments in time, or blend the right moments in time, we have to understand them first. All of my photography rotates around a few different times a day. And that first one is the golden hour. Golden hour is actually the easiest one to find. In Hollywood, we call it magic hour. It's when everything looks beautiful. And essentially, it happens just before sunset. In this case, just before the sun disappears behind that cloud line. And you can see that I'm getting a soft golden light coming in from the left, illuminating Cellulance Fosse, the water, the waterfall, everything like that, really accentuating the colors. Now this goes further here in the Valençon Plateau in southern France. This is the lavender, famous lavender that blooms. You guys want to go late June, early July, and I got to tell you, it's the best smelling photo location on the planet. You can't beat it. This is the first 90 seconds of the morning. I wanted the first light to hit the lavender. After 2 minutes, it was too much. It was too intense, so we went home, back to our little apartment, drank coffee, and waited for the last 90 minutes of light for the day too. And this doesn't just mean it needs to be the first or last part of the day. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. And I'm going to bring this back to a different version, this portfolio version, but this is the fully illuminated version. Another very representative spot in Japan. Fuji Yoshida is the city. Terada Pagoda, Mount Fuji, cherry blossoms. For me, that was everything that I loved about Japan in one photo. Aside from the food, but I don't do selfies of food in the middle of the shot. That would have been a bad idea. So, the next thing, sunrises and sunsets. Now I want to do a little quick poll here. Raise your hand if you hate sunsets. That's what I thought. Nobody ever raises their hand. One person raised their hand. I was like, what? That's impossible. I can tell, maybe you hate sunrises because you have to get up at 4 a.m. I can understand that. Sunrises and sunsets are the most amazing thing that we can capture as landscape photographers. If the sky goes crazy, we have incredible clouds, incredible light, then we don't have to do much. We just have to be in the right place at the right time. Just sometimes this can take weeks, months, or years to be able to capture that sunrise or sunset that we were looking for. But it still gives us the opportunity to be able to work with all this incredible light. Another thing about this too, notice that's the second shot I showed you guys where the sun is actually in the frame. So the sun actually hasn't set. Reason being is that sun is still casting light on the buildings. That sun is also still casting light on the water. And a half-second exposure allowed me to streak the water a little bit. If the sun would have been set already, there'd be no light in these buildings, just the artificial light in the center. So I've been able to do that all over the world. This is a pano I actually took with the Fujifilm X-E1 years ago in Petra, Jordan. And you can see the light, really fiery skies. Very rare in Jordan to have clouds like this. It's very lucky. Still illuminating the top of the monastery, the very top. And again, same thing here, just gives us the ability to capture beautiful colors and lights, reflections, and everything just sort of comes into play. Would have been a nice shot without the sky, but I'm not mad that I had a nice sky, that's for sure. For sure. My favorite time to shoot, and this is where I've been focusing a lot of my time, is during the blue hour. It's not just called the blue hour because the sky is blue, although that helps. And it's not just because of the hour, because it's always an hour. In Dubai, we call it the blue minute. And everybody I'm shooting with is like, did you get the blue minute? Yes, I got it, because it goes from gray to blue to black. And it's like gone, it's 1 minute at a time. But what happens, since there's blue in the sky, it causes ambient light. Ambient light is basically fill light, allows me to illuminate the foreground. Allows me to still have green in the trees. If it was full dark, it wouldn't happen. But most importantly, this is a harmony of artificial light from the city and natural light from the sky. So this is where I take most of my photos. In Kyoto, Japan, in the old district here, it's actually illuminated by almost one light source in the foreground, but with the blue in the background actually creates a really nice feeling of warm against cool. If it was fully dark, it would just be black. There wouldn't be all these blue reflections in the windows and things like that. It's a very powerful time to shoot. Blue hour in Hallstatt, which is relatively close to here depending on how much you want to drive. Same thing, beautiful light from the city. Now the blue hour is really crucial because you have to wait and you have to find that harmony. Is it dark enough for me to see the lights from the city, but is it light enough in the sky for me to still see the details of the landscape? So sometimes you can shoot for an hour and a half and you have to pick that one time. That was perfect, and you'll find it once you look on a big screen, obviously. For the viewfinder, it's a little more difficult. Singapore, laser show, same thing. We start to get into these moments in time where we can capture incredible events that are going on. You guys ever make it to Singapore? They do nightly laser shows. It's a lot of fun to photograph. Tripod-friendly city, great place. I highly recommend it. Dubai, again. And Dubai here is a blue hour, but it's an AM blue hour where I have to be in the fog. Later I'm going to go show you guys an example where I'm above it, but I was actually in the fog, and that created all this weird atmospheric sort of disturbance. I had no idea what I was going to get. It was pretty cool. Blue hour in Venice. I mean, Venice is beautiful any time of the day. You guys know that. As long as you don't get stuck with a huge crowd of people in front of you. Blue hour was amazing. We saw that there was a lightning storm coming in, so we stayed and we were taking photos. Actually, Naomi, my wife, got a better lightning strike than me, but I got this lightning strike and I really wanted to use it. And I got accused online, all over the place, of compositing this lightning into my shot. And my only argument was, no, obviously I didn't do that, but if I would have composited lightning in my shot, don't you think it would have been a huge burst of lightning? Who composites a tiny little lightning burst into their frame? But it still looked kind of cool and I didn't want to leave it out. This is probably my favorite blue hour shot. This is Bhutan, Taksong, Tiger's Nest. Beautiful hike. That mule that I showed you guys, he's the one who helped me get up there to take this shot. I was the first one in the world to capture the blue hour simply because nobody ever stayed up there long enough to find out if they lit it up at night. So I didn't have to break out of the box to do something different. I just had to be the first one who was, was brave enough to hike down in the dark, I guess, which wasn't a big deal. But it's a very beautiful time of day. Now from that, it's also really important. What you guys have noticed, no matter what time I've shot, everything had to do with the weather. The skies are really interesting. So just because you want to focus on these beautiful times of day doesn't necessarily mean that you want to avoid other times of day if there's something beautiful happening in the sky. So this is shot in the middle of the afternoon in Meteora in northern Greece, and you can see the clouds, there's fog, there's fall colors. It's very beautiful on its own. Or, like this shot, flying around mid-morning in a helicopter and actually coming across a double rainbow. I mean, I've seen a double rainbow before, but I was never lucky enough to capture them. And the great thing, this is in Australia, this is Surfers Paradise, part of Queensland. You work with helicopter companies, different parts of the world, and safety. In Australia, it was like, hey mate, I reckon it's dangerous to fly today, you want to go anyway? I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? I was like, can you get a little closer? He's like, no, not legally, but nobody will notice. It's really fun. So we circled, had this double rainbow, really fun, but it was a time of day that I don't normally shoot. Now, fog is also really important. In Tuscany, spring and fall, Tuscany you go anytime because there's wine and it's beautiful, but if you want that ground fog, April, May is probably the best time to do it when that temperature is changing. So I spent 8 mornings trying to capture this. 8 mornings I was up at 3:30 in the car by 4 a.m. But if you're in Italy, you're probably drinking wine like me until about 2 a.m. with everybody. It's not easy, 8 mornings. 8 mornings, getting up, finally getting the shot, 9th morning, slept all day, woke up for lunch, had some wine, went back to sleep. It was done. And I'll say, I actually visit this location a lot, it's beautiful. Now, the fog, I got this year in March. 5 years, almost 6 years, and about 15 or a little more, I can't figure out if it was 15 or 16 trips to Dubai, focused on trying to capture the fog, and this year was my first year for it. Now, everything that I've talked about, you guys, the blue hour, that harmony of artificial light, natural light, I actually have natural light and clouds from the sky illuminating the side of the Burj Khalifa. See the light from the sun? It's very beautiful. But I also have light from underneath. See the light illuminating the fog from underneath? The reflection of those lights in the building, the reflection of fog and all these windows and different things is beautiful. This is actually a pano using the Fujifilm X Pro 2. And trust me, when everything was in focus and it stitched correctly, I was like, thank goodness, thank goodness. It's such a rare phenomenon. Now, and I'll explain some of this too. This is where I took things next. So for everything that I have been doing, I've been leaving my tripod in place. You guys saw those time lapses, right? Now we think about time a little bit less than linear with photography. So photography for me at the beginning was capturing a moment. But when we go to beautiful places and we experience something, are we experiencing a single moment? Do you remember one single image in your head? Or do you remember the whole time you were there? Do you remember the entire sunset? The way the clouds changed, the way the colors lit up, the way the lights from the city came on, the people that were around you, the experience you were having, the wine, the sounds, everything, these visual elements. And video production, we have the power to show people this in motion, with parallax, things like that. But as photographers, I was trying to find a way that we could encapsulate that entire memory into a single moment. So I started blending moments in time. So what you're seeing here is a sunset with a blue hour. So rather than choosing one moment, I'm choosing different moments in time to put together. Here in Greece too, the peak of that beautiful color that I got, beautiful clouds, and also blending in the lights too. And it may seem complicated, but I'm going to break it down for you guys in simple ways. But I went all over the world. Here, Osaka Castle, I like the beautiful sky and also the illumination from within. So I'm working with different light sources. Venice, not only different light sources, the lights from the buildings here, beautiful view from the bridge, the nice sky, but also the gondola. How many of you guys have been to Venice? Okay, yeah, good. It takes a while to get them to line up like this. I must have taken 30 or 40 shots and I found the one that I want. Then I brought the one in that I wanted to use. Out of those 30 and 40, most of them is, people with iPads up like this, or iPads and Hello Kitty hats, and things like that. So it took a little bit of time to find people that were not doing those things, looked a little normal. It's getting harder and harder every year. Now people playing Pokemon Go, you're like, that really doesn't feel like an ancient city anymore. But really capturing these variables of time together. Same thing here, Meteor agrees, beautiful sky, but you guys remember when that sun goes down all the way below the horizon, what happens? It no longer illuminates the foreground. So I'm bringing in some additional exposures here to get that light back, that light that was missing. Another shot of Santorini, same thing, beautiful sky, beautiful light. I'm going to show some examples of this before and after for you guys too. Now, this is the one I wanted to bring it all back together. I showed you this shot during the morning, right? Everything was illuminated, cherry blossoms were in full bloom, Mount Fuji was out because it hides during that time of year. Trade Pagoda, everything in harmony. But this is my portfolio shot. This is a little bit of a blend post-sunset, and I want you guys to pay attention to the amount of light sources that are here because this is a very strange thing. Mount Fuji is actually illuminated by the last of the sunlight from the right side. The pagoda is illuminated from the left side, so that's opposite directions. The cherry blossoms are actually illuminated from lights underneath. And the city itself is illuminated from within. So I actually have 4 distinct light sources all in one frame working in harmony to create something truly unique, something that can't be captured in a single moment of time. And that kind of brings me to creating the extraordinary. So from there, where can we take it? How can I take it even further? And for me, further was astrophotography. How many of you guys have seen Petra by Night? It's beautiful, right? I mean, candlelight, ancient architecture and everything. I was able to sneak in early without the people, so that was pretty cool. They didn't kick me out. And then I just set the camera up and I waited to be able to capture the stars. I was able to do the same thing similarly in Santorini to capture the stars almost looking like they're falling over the city. Blue skies used to depress me as a photographer. I just spent all this time talking to you guys about how there has to be drama in the skies, all this stuff. Now when the sky's blue, I try to shoot astrophotography as long as it's clear. So that literally means that there's no day I can't shoot, I can't sleep any day. I have to be out shooting all the time. No excuses anymore. That doesn't just count for stars, it can count for cosmic elements like the northern lights. And this happens, this is in Iceland. Every once in a while you get lucky enough to see this, and if you guys have seen the northern lights one time, we all probably feel the same, we want to see it again. It becomes very addictive. In fact, before I saw this a few years ago, I thought it was fake. I'm from Florida, from the tropics. We don't even have seasons, let alone the northern lights. So when I saw it, I was like, okay, it's real, I believe everybody knew. And it's amazing. But star trails, I love star trails. I love shooting the Milky Way. And a little secret, everybody always asks me, what's your favorite destination? If you have a dream location you want to shoot, I'm kind of a geek. I'd like to shoot from space. I'd like to see our Earth from space. That's my ultimate dream. But until then, I have to find things on our planet that look like alien worlds. And in Mount Bromo in Indonesia, I was able to teach myself astrophotography and create this, beautiful, unique scene. It doesn't even look like our planet. So I did send my resume to NASA. This is a true story. A little while ago, they were trying to market and PR expand their range, and they asked everybody could submit their resume to become an astronaut. So I submitted mine. I was really excited. I made it look nice, a lot of nice photos, kind of talked about my dream. Never ever heard back from them. I guess art degree is not appropriate. So math, science, that's probably more important. But anyway, I love shooting just these crazy places. And that brings me to sort of the last thing I want to talk about to show you guys how simple this is, post-processing. Okay, don't panic. It's not that complicated. Everything that I showed you guys, breaks down to these simple 4 steps. Raw file adjustment, exposure blending, if any, a lot of this is single raw. Color, contrast adjustment, sharpening details, and noise reduction. Everything is as simple as that. And I try to keep it as simple as possible. Now, years ago, we had, this is 6-7 years ago when I shot this, there wasn't much in this raw file. And you guys recognize there's something wrong with the highlights? They might be a little missing. It took a little bit of work to blend multiple exposures together. And this is a little bit after I started using HDR, and then I did manual blending just to get everything back. But these days, like that photo I showed you, Cellulite Spots, this is a single raw file. pay attention to two things. One, the before, the after, of just balancing the light. So the highlights in the waterfall are fixed, the shadows in the foreground and the colors are fixed, and also something else, notice in the corner there's a camper van. Nothing takes you out of the atmosphere like tour groups and camper vans. So just get rid of, it's a quick heel brush, click, gone, makes it a little bit more remote. Same thing here, single raw. This is actually an aerial shot with a Inspire Pro and X5 camera by DJI. Single raw, again, highlights, foreground adjustment, and you just bring it home. So all this is Lightroom adjustments. A little bit of contrast, a little bit of vibrance, and it's good. And all over the world, like in house style. Here's the before, straight out of camera. Already looks really nice, but all I want to do is just enhance it a little bit more. I want to bring out the details, fix anything. Now there's two things here. There's one, notice the construction on the clock tower. I had to fix that. That's bad, the scaffolding, they were fixing it. The second thing, see that streak there? Ducks. And I hate ducks now. I used to love ducks. But in photography, most birds just kind of fly by or they land in the water. Ducks glide when they land. And if you're doing a long exposure, you know what that does. Streaks, streaks. So we have to get rid of the ducks. Photography lesson 101, destroy the ducks in post-processing. It's very therapeutic. Here's another example. I showed you guys the shot before. Now look at the highlights here in the single raw. Something's wrong. Also the shadows. Also a beer bottle. This is New Zealand over the weekend, after all. And somebody took a little step. So I had to fix those things. But pay attention here, not to the highlights, but the shadows on those posts. Who would have known that was there? It's all there in the raw file. Just tiny little slide shadows, slide the blacks over, add a little bit of contrast and some vibrance, bring all that back. That's all it is. Just simple balancing. Here's that shot in Tuscany. You can see shooting through the fog is really cool, but when you shoot through fog, it causes atmospheric perspective, so it gets a little hazy, right? Combat haze with contrast, and you can bring everything back. So that's straight out of camera. That's a little bit of work on the values themselves. It's really fun. You get to kind of show your vision of what you actually saw and shot that day. Same thing in Iceland. Really beautiful waterfall, famous waterfall. Quick before and after, single raw file. Pretty easy to do, straight out of camera and result. Now this is where it starts to get into blending time together. So I just talked about, I showed you a bunch of examples where I'm fixing things. What's wrong? Sky's blown out, but I also wanted to add a long exposure for the water. There's also something else going on down there. If you guys read fstoppers.com, that's Patrick Hall. You can see how big this is. It's not that Patrick Hall's a tiny little person. He's actually way down there, but he was easy to get rid of. That was no problem. After I blended in the sky and fixed the sky, I shot an additional 15-second exposure using a 10-stop neutral density filter, and then painted that in right over top. So all my settings were the same. It was really easy. This is an example, more extreme example, where you can bring back highlights. All that information is there. It's waiting for you to bring it back. This was really funny. The road to Mount Cook in New Zealand, beautiful place for astrophotography. About 120 millimeters. I was standing right in the middle of the road, and I was like, this is beautiful. And then the cars started coming in. I said, no, maybe I should move to the side of the road. So I moved to the side of the road, set up the shot, had my friends drive back and forth so I could capture the light. So it wasn't just this beautiful road now leading into this beautiful mountain. I created a super moment where it actually showed the cars going, and this is different 30-second exposures, me on a walkie-talkie and them saying, did you get it yet? I'm like, no, one more time, one more time. Because what I found out is at night, it's not busy there at all. There's no cars, so you have to make your own light. It was actually kind of funny. So this is where it gets into that blending. So you guys recognize this shot. This is straight out of camera. This is after sunset. Notice the sky. The sky is going to stay the same as I blend 20 minutes in, or 20 minutes later in, to bring the colors from the cherry blossoms lit up and all the windows. After I blend, so let's pretend that's one shot in the background, one shot for the foreground, some simple masking, right? After that, I'll unify it by adding some contrast and different things like that. Fixing any mistakes, getting rid of little details, and accentuating little details, and bringing that contrast back to make a really explosive looking shot. Same thing, back to Santorini. Here's the sunset, everything's looking pretty good, but what if I blended in those lights and accentuated that sky a little bit? So now we have about 30 minutes encapsulated together. This is where it just starts to get more and more fun. Same thing, straight out of camera, that shot I showed you guys before, a little bit of work to encourage the sky to be a little brighter, and the lights from the foreground. Pretty cool, huh? It's more of what I saw. I didn't see this, though that did happen. What I remember is this. That's the memory that I have. That's how beautiful this was to me when I saw it for the first time. And I know places like that are that way for you. You just can't describe it. When you show the photo, you're like, it's so much better than this. There was so much going on. You have to visit for yourself. And that's a neat feeling to be able to try to, put that together and create an emotional response in the viewer. Here's that shot. I just want to show you guys. Single raw file from the Fujifilm X-T2, edited on an iPad, the new RAW for Lightroom mobile. And I was able to go from there to there. And then a little bit of dodging here in the foreground, and I was able to bring back some of the highlights. So basically, from darkness, recovery. It's so amazing the dynamic range we have in sensors. We are so lucky today to have that. Here's another example too. Rome. I love Rome. I've showed you guys a couple different versions of this when I said sunset in the blue hour. This is the peak of the colors in the sky. It's not going to get any better. From here, it's going to get darker and darker, and then eventually those lights are going to come on. So I want to find a way to bring those lights in while still maintaining the reflection of the sky, the reflections of the lights, and pulling that in to harmony. It's really fun stuff. Now, that shot in Hong Kong, here is when the sun finally came up in Hong Kong, Victoria Peak. I did try 6 or 7 times for this, which is really tough. It's very humid. It's about a 2-kilometer walk to this spot. And it's very rare to find a sunrise in Hong Kong. It just gets hazy, so many things, the visibility, it's tough. But I wanted to bring back the lights as well. So this is the sunrise with all the lights in the city. Now again, it may seem complicated, but it's not. It's actually quite simple. And it's cool. What it requires is being patient, both in the field and in post-processing, experimenting a lot, but really leaving your camera in one place and protecting your camera if there's a lot of people. Don't let people bump your camera, or else you're going to have a hard time. With astrophotography in particular, this is the Church of the Good Shepherd. This has now become one of the busiest places in New Zealand for astrophotography. I set up until about 2 a.m. to capture the stars, because I wanted to capture the star trails. This light accumulation, those are camera flashes, selfies, all sorts of things like that. So it was there for about 6 hours, capturing a series of 30-second exposures. But there's something wrong with my foreground, right? So if I took these 250 layers, these 250 30-second exposures, brought them into Photoshop, changed it to the light-in blending mode, this is what I get. All the lights accumulating. So the first thing I needed to do was establish my foreground. So this is going to be my clean foreground. After that, what I do is I shoot the star trails and combine the star trails in. So it's a little bit different than the version that I saw you guys before. So this just requires shooting a clean element, waiting to be able to capture those stars, and I'll let you guys in on how this is done too. So 100 shot, 130-second exposures, 10, 15-second exposures to the night sky. Stars move. So as they move, they create a trail. To get that trail to be visible in Photoshop, bring them all into one composition, load images as stack if you want to use the action, and then set it to the light-in blending mode. So light-in will make everything show through. If layer number 1, you change to 1% opacity, layer number 100 becomes 100% opacity, then you have a fade, or a tail fade. And that's how I created this. So really, that's where I've been trying to push the boundaries even more. Right now, this year, I'm working on some new ideas. So next Photokina, I'll have a completely different story to tell on what we're able to do with the new technology and how we can take it further. But what I want to encourage you guys to do, especially here at Photokina, is walk around. Go check out the new aerial photography stuff, the 3D, VR. You can avoid Pokemon Go, or you can probably play it here, actually. Take all that technology that you've learned about and embrace it. And find a new way to challenge yourself to use it to create something unique, to push the boundaries. And when I say push the boundaries, I don't mean break the boundaries. Just take what you're already doing, enhance it a little bit, experiment, and come up with your own style. And that's the most fun you can have. As long as you're having fun doing it, you're following the right path. So if you guys want to see all of this work on screen, or you want to learn from me, that's really bright by the way when it turns white, you can go to EliLocardi.com. All these images are there. There's a lot of before and afters. And if you want to learn step by step in the field, all the way from setting up, learning about composition, camera settings, all the way through the field, capturing those raw images, all the way through post-processing from the very, very beginner level all the way through the advance of how I blend, like that shot in Hong Kong, those moments in time together, you can visit my website, and I have 2 downloadable classes that come with the PSDs and the raw files. So with that, guys, I just want to say thank you for coming. All right, that's enough. You guys are making me blush. I'm going to go right around the corner once I'm all packed up here where the cameras are. So if you guys have any questions for me, just give me like 2 minutes and I'll come out. And it'd be great to talk to some of you guys too. I just got to take the mic off and get ready for the next one up. So thanks again, guys. It's awesome.